So in this demo, I'm going to show you two interfaces for Clinical Archive. There's an Archive Vision, which you're looking at right now, which is the clinician's view of the archive data. And HIM Vision is the HIM user interface for that same data. So what is the data? So as many hospitals and healthcare organizations are consolidating and their systems are being consolidated, we oftentimes find a new EMR system that has maybe the current 2 or 3 years, and yet we have lots of legacy healthcare information in legacy systems that need to be dealt with. Well, Archive Vision Clinical Archive is a solution that allows you to move that data from the legacy systems into Archive Vision to provide a single consolidated view of those patient records that are not in the current new EMR system. So let me log in as a clinician into Archive Vision. And we can do a search for the patient. And again, the demographics here that we search on, that's all configurable. Here we left it fairly simple. And now we view a patient, we're brought to our landing page. Now, oftentimes we do an integration with the current EMR system so that the patient context and your credentials are passed automatically, and you're brought straight to this window, and you don't have to do any login. So this first page gives us a snapshot of the patient's key patient information. Again, what information you want displayed here is all configurable, and we can configure more panes here than simply the 6 I've shown. We also can provide a link to be able to give you the ability to drill down in more detail. Over here on the left, I have tabs, and this link will take me to the Medications tab, where I get some more detail on the medications. Again, the columns and the data displayed is configurable, so whatever makes sense, we can provide that. We also have a timeline view that puts everything in chronological order, so I could scroll through, find the time frame I'm looking for, and then open one of the documents, and here we go. I now have it in context from a timeline perspective. There's also an encounter view we can provide you. So if we look at a particular encounter, we'll get a list of documents or records that are associated with that particular encounter. Here we just have one. I'll click on that, and we can open it up. Also see we have the ability to put an overlay or a watermark on the document, and we can also stamp additional information on the page as well. So whatever makes sense, we can provide that capability. Continuity of care is another tab that we can provide, and this gives us a snapshot of the patient's information packaged up in real time, and we include bookmarks so you can easily navigate through the document to find what you're looking for. Over here on the left, again, we can organize these tabs into whatever makes sense. These are not hard and fast. Here we have notes, radiology, test results, cardiology, and pathology. That could be any categorization that makes sense for you. So if I click on notes, I'm going to see a list of notes. If I have a lot of documents here, I have the ability to filter them. So I may filter by location, maybe perhaps by department, and that brings us down to a smaller list. The filters themselves are also configurable, so whatever makes sense to help you to organize or subcategorize your documents is up to you. Clicking on the note itself brings up the document, so as we've seen before, this is the same document that we saw. We also have the ability to provide some additional security. Anytime somebody comes in and views a document or does a search, that gets recorded in the audit log. But sometimes you have more sensitive things, perhaps a VIP patient or a facility like a mental health or drug rehab center that you want to put an added layer of confidentiality around it. Well, we've set up Whitman Hospital to be a sensitive location. So when I try to view that document, I get a pop-up here that captures my employee ID, and I actually have to enter the reason why I want to view this document before it lets me proceed. Once I do that, it gets logged into the audit trail, that whole information. So that gives you a little more security around it. So this was a whirlwind tour of the clinician's view called Archive Vision. So this is my archive data from my legacy systems viewed through Archive Vision, which provides a clinician's perspective on that data. So next we're going to take a look at HIM Vision, which is for the HIM users. So I'll log in as before. Again, this is the same patient data, but it's a different perspective to support the use cases for the Health Information Manager user. So let's log in and look for our same patient. Again, the demographic search criteria is all configurable, and as are the results. So we'll view our patient, and now we're going to see every record in the system for that particular patient. As before, we can filter that down, whatever the filters make sense. We can configure it for that. Once we find the document we're looking for, we could perhaps make an amendment to it, and we pick what sort of a correction we're making. Is it deletion, clarification, etc.? We enter our reason. We can choose the new file, and then also choose any supporting documents if you want to include that as well for why you're making the amendment. When you make an amendment or a change, it does not change the original document. It just puts a new document in there, so you'll have a history of what happened, so that from an audit perspective, there's always going to be a record of what was archived versus what was amended. When the clinician comes in to view an amended document, they're always presented with the amended version rather than the incorrect document. So there, from a quality of care standpoint, we're covered. We can also import additional documents. If there was something missing from the record, we can import and make an addition as well. If there are amendments, they'll show up here, so you can, again, have that trace history of what happened on that particular patient's record. Another task for the HIM user is to handle release of information. So to do that, we just start here by clicking, let's create a new release of information. So we give it a title and enter who it's requested by. We can enter comments as well. Save it, and then go on to select, now what do we want to include in this release of information. Same as before, we can grab our filters, maybe pick by location, or perhaps a year, department, you name it. So whatever makes sense for your filters, we can categorize that information. Or you can simply just select everything by checking this box. With everything selected that you want to include in the release of information, you next need to determine what's the sort order. How do you want to organize it in that final document? So we have some choices: name and type, name, date, etc., and those are configurable. So I'll pick date, and the final step is we now export it, and we can pick PDF or zip file, and we'll do the export. And now the system is gathering up all those records, putting them into the order that I requested, and packaging up into a single PDF, which is now ready. So I can download that, and here is my document, fully completed. All the records for that patient are included in this single document. This is the completed release of information, and you've just had a tour of the HIM system. So to summarize, we looked at the Archive Vision, which is for clinicians, and we looked at HIM Vision for HIM users. They're both two different views into the same data, and this is part of the solution called Clinical Archive, which is used to take all that legacy data and put it into a consolidated record to make it available and complement your existing production EMR system.